Pack Nation, we are back here for part 2 of our NC State versus Wake Forest preview. If you haven't checked out part 1 yet, make sure to do that first and foremost, and then come right back in here for part 2, as we'll start to really dive into our keys of the game and also to give our game predictions even as well. So kind of picking back up, where we left off, I think that honestly having Demi Sumo back for this game is going to be huge. There's no doubt. I mean, that guy has been a spark for this offense the entire season, as much as he played. Now, the one thing which, obviously concerns me is, the fact that after the Florida State game, Dorn said that Demi was fine, and then he ended up not playing against Syracuse. So even though Dorn said, I expect to have him for this game, I'm still like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, the expecting words is kind of an interesting word choice there.
Go ahead.
Do we know what his injury is? Is it concussion symptoms?
Maybe.
Nope, we don't know. We don't know. They haven't announced anything, and we don't know.
During this whole season has really kept the injury cards close to the chest, obviously.
Yeah.
So, which, to each its own. So, for maybe as a chess game against our opponents, it probably does great. But for us as fans, and especially us as, media coverage people, it's incredibly frustrating. So, but the one thing too, which I even want to throw in there as well, is I feel like, to me, people don't talk about Jordan Houston enough. And more the fact that guy, to me, has been the definition of consistent. He's not flashy. I think everybody really looks at him this season still for his fumble at the goal line against ECU. But at the end of the day, I mean, that guy, I mean, that's a lot, because obviously that was a that was a big mistake. That was a big mistake, for him. But I mean, ever since then, he's been Mr. 3.5 yards a carry every single game, and nothing more, nothing less.
Hey, that last drive of the Virginia Tech game was him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
really, he closed out that game, and he's been very consistent. I think it's a really good word for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a great duo between Jordan Houston, is more of your, if you need it, you got it guy, and then Demi Sumo, who's more of your, let's give it to him and see what happens, kind of guy. So but so I think that's going to be a key for sure, is because one thing that stood out when you look at the box score is that supposedly MJ Morris carried the ball 13 times, which to me, I feel like you definitely gotta not necessarily limit that, but just be smarter with it. Especially too, again, with the young quarterback, just rely more on these guys who are proven, guys like a Jordan Houston who is experienced, to really help carry the backfield a little bit and take a lot of the pressure off of MJ as much as you can, especially against a Wake Forest defense that this season has not been great at all.
Yeah.
They've been, half decent at best.
Average,
but you knew that going into the season. So, I wanted to kind of make sure to highlight that first and foremost, but to kind of jump back in here about, our Wake Forest offense versus our defense. We talked a lot about Sam Hartman for sure and talked about defense, but I think the biggest thing for me, because, one quote that really stands out, which kind of excited me, was that, I think it was a national media member saying, if NC State could get a pass rush, a 9-3 season is still 100% on the table, which I thought was an interesting quote. How he basically straight up called our pass rush out.
Right.
And I mean, because has our pass rush been what it needs to be this season, especially with as much experience and talent as we have on that D line, as much depth as we have on that D line? It's been frustrating for sure. And especially too, even with three guys, and Isaiah Moore, Peyton Wilson, and Drake Thomas, and linebacker, that, I mean, we all can agree are three of the best linebackers in the country, not necessarily even just from the pass coverage side, but more of honestly from the bull, pass rush side. I mean, those guys are animals. So that's kind of one frustration for me, is I honestly expected more from the pass rush this season than especially over the last couple of years. But, Macon, I know you got PFF in front of you, so I don't know if you have any stats from that area, but, at least what are your thoughts, on that? Do you see this as a game where that can be something that we finally break out on? Or do you, I guess kind of a back question to it is, do you think that it's actually not as much of an issue as people are making it out to be?
I think it is an issue, to be honest with you. I think we're barely winning games right now, and I think if you're letting quarterbacks, particularly in this matchup with Sam Hartman, who they do that slow mesh offense and they want to sit there and calculate the defense. And let them I do think it's going to be. I think it's a problem. I'm not saying it will be a problem this upcoming game, but um, it's I don't know if it's something maybe they can figure out. Maybe with Savion out, maybe somebody can emerge there, then flash a little more at times. I know Savion wasn't getting a ton of stats, but he was consistently a guy there that was you had to be aware of him if you're on the opponent's offense. I just don't. I don't expect us to be able to um, be a dominant pass rush this season. I just think we got to find a cut guy or two who can really get pressure, get a sack or two a game, and help. But you just can't let a guy like Sam Hartman sit back there and pick you off, or they just run the game. I don't know. I think it's a concern. I mean, I really do. I think they're going to need to figure out if it's Travali Price or if a Davin Van or Corey Durden can step up and get those sacks. I think you're honestly going to see linebackers blitz a lot more too, because it was effective against Virginia Tech. You got a couple sacks between Peyton Wilson and Drake Thomas during that game. They're going to need to make up that difference where I don't feel like the defensive line is getting it done, to be honest with you.
Yep, I agree. Michael, any additional points to that?
Yeah, I think that was one of the things we identified as a potential issue at the beginning of the season, losing Daniel Joseph and Levi Jones, and having a true pass rusher on the team, and it's clearly kind of something we've been missing. The one thing I will say is with specifically for Wake Forest, everybody knows that the way to mess up their offense is get the pressure up the middle and disrupt the slow mesh that they do at the handoff. And I think that plays into if our advantage pass rush wise, because we do like to send the linebackers
right
up the middle more so than having like a dominant edge rusher.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and sorry, I'm at this too. So Wake Forest is ranked 41st in the country in pass blocking grades, whereas State's ranked 28th. And then, but the thing that's going to be different here is our pass rush grade. I don't even see it in the top 100 list here,
I don't think
grade wise. Now, whereas the difference here is Wake Forest is second in the country on pass rush grade. Now, it doesn't mean that they're they're going to get it every time, but grading wise, how they perform as a unit in that aspect of the game, they're second in the country on a pass rush grade. The only team that's better than them is Houston. They're ahead of teams like Ohio State and Clemson here, so that are 5 and 6. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, very interesting stat. Yeah. Well, and the one thing too, which I actually was kind of encouraged by, which really stood out, because at one point, I think it was in the late third quarter or something like that, I remember my dad leaning over to me and going, "Where's Drake Thomas at?" And I looked out there, and it was Peyton Wilson, Devon Betty, and Jordan Poole out there.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was like, "What the heck is that?"
And I was like, I don't know. And I was like looking, but I mean, and Drake Thomas and Isaiah Moore were standing right beside each other, right beside Tony Gibson. So I mean, they weren't hurt or anything like that. So it was just literally that they just put Devon Betty and Jordan Poole out there, which I was like, I mean, I'm okay with that, to an extent. Sure. I mean, just keep the guys fresh, just change it up a little bit. And I mean, because again, it just goes back to how much faith, obviously, Tony Gibson has in the depth that we have a linebacker, which goes to, again, more of the point of that even life after Peyton Wilson, Drake Thomas, Isaiah Moore, we're going to be fine. I mean, obviously, are we going to have the beasts that we have in those three? Maybe not. But I mean, are we going to have solid guys that we can rely on, especially since Jordan Poole is only a freshman? I mean, he's young.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. This season, there's been a lot of young guys that have really stood out this year for sure.
I'm going to add a note. Hey, I found us. We are on this top 100 list. Pass rushing grade, we're ranked 69th. So it's not terrible, but it's not really that, noteworthy.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I got that correction in.
Yeah. Appreciate that, Macon. So, again, I think, for me, the biggest thing which I'm hoping for, and I guess we can kind of, instead of talking about instead of talking more, we can just kind of jump into kind of phrasing this as keys to the game. So we'll, for me, I guess the key which I was about to make for me is you got to come out aggressive. You got to come out aggressive. I think that with MJ and with most games this season, that Tim Beck has loved starting off like the first drive, like first play, first drive, do a bubble screen just to like warm it up. Like we're gonna do a bubble screen, just warm it up. But for me, I'm like, listen, I think we should like the first play do like they'll do a play where like you'll do a bubble screen, but then the blocker will basically go up to block and then release and then go on a go route. I think that's when we do first play. And I think MJ Morris, I mean, he's got an arm to him for sure. And he's got a hose of an arm, can throw that ball long. So I say let's do that first play. Just a fake bubble screen, deep pass to Devin Carter, and let's punch him out early. That's to me the biggest thing. Got to get out early. Got to get out to a big start. And to me, I don't think if we can avoid being behind, that is a huge key. To really not have to put as much pressure on MJ. That's a big key to me. Making what would you say yours would be your first one?
Again, my key to the game is getting any sort of pass rush. Get hands on Sam Hartman before he can really start picking apart your defense. I think that is the number one key to me is get in his head, get him flustered. I would say try oh no, it's not last week all over again if he can help it. Get him thinking that, seeing ghosts if you can help it.
Yep.
And then I think what Michael said, I think it's going to be your coverage. I think it's going to have to be really good. I think at times your man-on-man defense in the secondary is going to be really good. I think offensively, well, I realize you want me to ask did you want me to give you a list of them or just the one?
I mean, well, here.
You asked me one.
You kind of gave Michael's, which I kind of summarized on. So, so give us one more, and then we'll let Michael kind of jump in.
I think on offense, I think the key to the game is controlling the line of scrimmage. To be honest with you,
yeah,
I think it's going to be big because I think it's going to give MJ time to throw. I think it's going to give him some confidence, some confidence. Just kind of let him settle into the game, knowing that he's not going to get just rocked the whole game. So that's my takeaways there.
Michael, go ahead, brother.
The refs to call offensive pass interference on Wake. Does that count?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's going to be like 2 or 3 defensive pass interference calls on NC State this game, and nothing on no push shots will be called on Wake Forest.
Yeah, don't you know, Michael? There's only 3 things you can count on in life, and that's death, taxes, and AC refs to suck. So,
yeah, fair.
And that's for all sports. Yeah, we haven't even talked about it at men's basketball AC refs yet. The Mr. Synonymous. But go ahead, Michael.
No, I think it's going to be all about our defense. Kind of a combo of what everybody said. You can't expect to get into a shootout this year. I mean, I guess you really couldn't last year against Wake Forest, and we did it and almost won that one. But especially this year with MJ Morris, you can't really get into a shootout with Wake Forest and expect to win. So I think the defense, just a combo of getting that pass rush, disrupting their offense, and playing well in coverage, and just holding them to a reasonable amount of points where our offense can keep up.
Well, and one thing too, which I hope is kind of a difference heading into this game that maybe the defense hasn't had up until this point in the season, is hopefully the defense, finally, at least from what they saw last game, can go into this game, because I know this is something that we've talked about in the live show, that maybe the defense is feeling, a ton of pressure by knowing that if we're going to win football games, the defense basically has to win it for us, period. I mean, that's pretty much been it the whole season. I mean, it goes back to, coming out of halftime in the Syracuse game, that Doran basically said that we need a defensive touchdown. Like, that to me, I think is pretty much just all the evidence you need that obviously it was a huge reliance that if we're going to win a football game, our defense has to win it for us. And so hopefully going into this game, that defense can, at least a little bit say, listen, I think from what we saw with MJ Morris and what we saw with Thayer and, Jordan Houston getting Demi back, what we finally saw Devin Carter start to be, what we expected him to be, that we can go into this game and say, listen, we're just going to worry about us and not necessarily put any kind of extra pressure on us that, we have to do this in order to win the game. Like, we just need to do our part, trust the offense to do theirs, and then the rest of it will take care of itself.
I want to add something because I think that's important, and that in the Virginia Tech game we saw what you said. Virginia Tech had what, -4 yards in the fourth quarter or something.
Yes,
And
yes.
and you kind of saw that after getting burned 3 times in 3 straight drives. MJ Morris connects on that touchdown pass to Thayer Thomas, and then you kind of saw a mentality switch in the defense there. It's like, okay, our offense
Huge.
can finally do something. Let's shut them
Yeah.
down and give us a chance to win here, and they did.
Yep, absolutely. Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. So again, and obviously, from a fan's perspective, I know that's obviously a hot topic right now, but obviously the fans experience wise, we have to put it all out there. We have to be in there and just again, this can be a huge game. I mean, like, think about it. Like, if we can pull this off, and I know obviously the little bit of the Cinderella of it's kind of taken out of it because the fact that Wake Forest dropped from 10 to all the way to 21, but still, I mean, again, Wake Forest has been that thorn in our side for years, and so for us to, have that revenge factor from last year for all that that state has fans have gone through. And I'll tell you this as well. By this point we've talked about this on the live show, but it's been one of the weirdest football seasons. It's been one of the craziest football seasons. How stressful each game has been. But again, I think it really would set in that this it would be another example that this program is different. And again, we'll talk about more about that as well in terms of that the program has definitely changed. But for us to pull off a win like this would be huge.
Yeah, I'm
Huge.
gonna add that. I'm gonna add that. You think about this, like, no one's really expecting State to win this game, and I don't.
No.
But it's not like we're talking like a 2-score betting line right now. We're talking like less than a touchdown or 7 points if it is a touchdown. So you're at home at a night game. That's the best environment. I just feel like one thing that's kind of a negative. I actually don't know if it's a negative. I think it's probably a negative for State is, Wake Forest was embarrassed. I said that last episode. They were embarrassed against Louisville, and they're going to want to come into this game, in a rivalry game where they know they've had history on their side, and try to, right the ship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that sets up well for State, but I'm going to tell you what. Let's say State plays like they have nothing to lose. Let's say they're slinging the ball all over the place and they're getting creative and whatever they need to do. If State can win that game, which I don't think is impossible. I mean, I'm making it sound like it's just like this, never going to happen. But if State can win this game, can you imagine the eyebrow raise and curl that they're going to give, particularly to MJ Morris? If this true freshman can come in one half of Virginia Tech, score 3 touchdowns, and then the next game come in and beat Wake Forest, who they'll be a top 20 team, but they were ranked 10 last week, and I think there'll be some guys looking at him like, well, wait a minute, they might have something here at this quarterback position. I think that would be really big for recruiting, because then you can go to some of these wide receiver recruits that we've been really trying to target. Not naming names because I don't want to get on all that right now, but you could say, hey, we've got this true freshman guy who's the quarterback who's going to be here for another 2-3 years. I don't know. I think there's a lot there. I don't think anybody's going to blame you for losing to Wake Forest either. So that's where I come at this. Okay, look, you can expect probably Wake Forest is going to come in wanting to right the ship. Is what I phrase I'm using tonight.
All the pressure's on Wake Forest this game. I
Right,
really don't think there's any
100%.
pressure on us for
So
this game.
what do you have to lose? Just take shots
Mhm.
downfield and let MJ play freely. Like he doesn't know the offense perfectly. I would almost kind of use that to your advantage a little bit. Just kind of like take shots and be creative and okay, what do you know? Can you execute well? Let's try that. Get him running the ball, which I thought he looked pretty effective running the ball. Get some plays in. Like I really liked. I know another thing we've talked about. I liked what I saw from a kickoff return or some returns or two from Julian Gray against Virginia Tech. He had some nice plays. Get him more involved. Get Terrell Timmons more involved. Get some looks that Wake Forest has not seen. I think State's going to have to do that, honestly, the rest of the season. Maybe, Boston College, I don't know about them. They look terrible. But,
Good
Lord.
but you
Jeez.
get what I'm saying? Like, they're going to have to be creative against Louisville because Louisville is no joke. And in my opinion, they're no joke. You do not look over Malik Cunningham. And then Carolina has, I think PFF has the number one passing offense grade-wise in the country. So, my point is they're going to have to be like this. I just think this is a good place to start. Second game in with first full game with MJ, just play free. Play like you have nothing to lose.
Yep. And I do got to admit that here, because I know I was a huge critic of it, during the preseason, so I feel like I got to right the ship twice in the preview and in the live show by admitting, yes, I was dead wrong about Drake May. That dude's the real deal. As a diehard State fan,
you
hate saying it. I really do. I was like, man, how does UNC fans do this?
He looks better to me than Sam Howell.
He does.
And I just say that's crazy, but
that's crazy. But again,
it is what it is.
It's
we got to face him in 3 weeks. But going back to NC State, I really think that MJ, I don't expect him to have like the same kind of game he had. If he scores 3 touchdowns in the game, I think that's a solid performance for him. Not 3 touchdowns and a half, but he could have a big game if they really play their cards right.
6 touchdowns. Macon is predicting 6 touchdowns for MJ Morris.
That's not what I said.
All right, cool. Well, let's wrap this up here by giving some score predictions. So, Michael, I'm going to put you on the spot first, man. What's your score prediction for me?
So I think, let me look up what I wrote in the newsletter because I put a prediction in there, so I want to make sure it's the same.
Yeah, in one you put State to win, the other one you put Wake Forest to win. That'd be interesting.
No,
Go ahead.
I mean, like Macon said, you got nothing to lose at this point. 10-win season, Orange Bowl still on the table, especially with Wake losing and Syracuse losing. You just got to be the highest ranked ACC team, assuming Clemson makes it to the playoff. So I mean, it's at home. Obviously, we've been dominant at home recently. I'm gonna say State 28, Wake 24.
I like that. Macon, what do you got?
So I'm looking here at some more stats too that I haven't mentioned yet. So when you said Leighton earlier, the matchup to watch would be State's defense versus Wake Forest offense. I think that's very true. And just to kind of put it there, I looked up on the ACC's website. Wake Forest is second in points per game. So they have the second best scoring offense in the ACC. They're averaging 38.9 points per game, that is 5 touchdowns and a field goal for those who aren't counting. But I will say this, but State is the number one defense in the ACC right now on points per game allowed. They're allowing 17.4 points per game on average. So they're allowing 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So not 5 and a field goal, but 2. So somewhere between 5 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns is probably where this is going to fall. I am nervous about being able to get a pass rush there. I think, though, it's proven you can. I think you're going to see us blitz. I think the linebackers need to be key, but I think a guy like Davin Vanny step up. I'm going to be honest. I don't expect State to win this game. I'm not going to give them a winning score here, just to be fair. I think preseason I thought they would, and then I think now I don't expect them to with Wake Forest coming off a loss, playing like that, and State having a true freshman quarterback. I just don't think you expect to have that same level performance twice in his first true start. Now, if he does, that would be incredible. But my prediction for the game, I'm looking here, the line, what is it saying? Over under is 53. So they have it on ESPN. They have it as Wake Forest is a 5-point favorite as the spread. So they're thinking it is somewhere at like a 29 to 24 kind of score. I'm going to say Wake Forest 32, NC State 21, 24, somewhere in there. I think you're going to see something like that. I think Wake Forest is going to come to play, try to right their ship. I think State will score, and I think we'll all come back looking at like, man, hey, MJ Morse had a nice game. I do think it's going to be more like a 10-point margin here. I think that's just my guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, I think the biggest thing is, I think that this is really a game where leaders have to step up.
Yeah.
You really need that locker room to come back alive. You really need leaders like Grant Gibson, even guys like Devin Leary too. Like, you really need Devin to really be like glued at the right hip on MJ Morris this week, which I'm really hoping and expecting that is what's happening. And basically, just because at the end of the day, I mean, this is a huge game. It's a legacy game, because I think that really looking at last year, once again, that is a game, the Wake Forest game, that I really do feel that if you ask the players to kind of look back and like which game do you kind of circle as like a missed opportunity, I think all of them would or I think the majority would pick that game as like, we should have pulled that one out. And so I think that this is a big game for that. And also too, because of the fact that if you want that 9-3, 9-3, 10-2 season, this is a game that is huge for that. And again, I guess maybe not if you want that 9-3,
definitely 10-2, because you can't lose out.
Yeah, can't lose out.
Every game.
No, but like if you want that special season, let's put it that way. If you want that special season that coming into out of preseason, every player, fan, coach, you name it, was expecting, this is the game you have to get over to do that.
Hey, I'm pushing them out too. Both teams are 6-2 and 2-2 in conference.
Yeah,
just gonna point that out. So and they're ranked right there. They're even. I always thought it was interesting. I don't know. Maybe you guys know this. Does ESPN update their matchup predictors? I think they do.
We're at a 58.8%.
Yeah, which is really interesting. They have State as like a 59% chance to win the game, even though Wake Forest is favored by 5 points. So. That's really interesting to me. I think to the fans, for anybody watching, like, I think this is the game that every game is a big one that the players need us, but I think this is a game where the crowd could be a factor. I really do. As a night game again, and you get a full game of NJ Morse. So
leave it out there
again. Play like you have nothing to lose. I think as fans, you holler and scream like you got nothing to lose too. So,
so basically, just to kind of wrap up, I think that honestly, for me, Wake Forest being in the 20s, I think sounds right to me. I think that's because again, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to limit to Wake Forest to like 14 points. That's not going to happen. I mean, they're so electric. They're gonna score, but it's just a matter of, can we stick with them and can we limit them enough where MJ Morris on our offense can do enough. So to me, I think, like, again, the over under right now is at 53, 54, depending on where you look. I see this as a little bit going above that. So I am taking NC State 31, Wake Forest 28. I think that seems like a good score to me. I think that
you're saying Chris Dunn wins the game.
I think Chris Dunn makes an impact. And I mean, again, that dude's been unbelievable this year.
Can I make a little note here? The fact that they have that music coming out to him, like they have for that pitcher, is so sweet. Because I mean, like, you look at the stats, he's number 1 in the country. I don't know if that's changed if somebody's made more field goals than him, but he was, like, last week, number one, tied for first in the country with field goals made and percentage. Like he's been perfect.
Yep.
And to have that music, I imagine it
And
should get him amped up, get him locked in the zone. I think the fans could even get hyped up, like him coming out to that music.
Yep.
It's even like, so Lindsay was at the game, was against Virginia Tech, my wife Lindsay, and we were talking about it, and she thought that was hilarious. Like even just like as someone who doesn't study state all the time, she thought that's really cool.
Yeah.
So
No, so again, I think that we all can agree. Again, this should be a great game. It's a game which will once again answer a lot of questions. I know going into Virginia Tech, we said we know nothing, and we're about to find out hopefully something, which we did find out something. But there's still a lot of questions still to be answered. Especially with Ian, a couple of games here, coming up, such as the Louisville and UNC game here. So, but it'll be a fun one. It'll be prime time, 8 p.m. in Carter-Finley, Saturday night. So make sure, if you haven't already, I know it's sold out, but that doesn't mean that you can't get tickets. If you don't have tickets, make sure to go on all your third-party sites, whether StubHub, Ticketmaster, you name it. Go get some tickets, and let's pack that stadium out. Be there for 4 quarters. Cheer as loud as you can, and again, let's pull these guys to what would be a huge victory for Dave Doran's cap if he could pull this one out. So with that being said, thank you all so much again for tuning in. If you haven't already, again, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and also to give us a like if you think NC State is going to win this football game, and then also to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter and Instagram. We'll see y'all soon. Thank you all so much. Let's beat Wake Forest and go Pack.